Noah was given the same instructions that Adam received in Genesis chapter 1. Verse 28. Although Noah was not the first man on earth, the earth was essentially starting all over again, which is why many people consider the modern human species as coming from Noah. God does not do something without preparing his vessel. And Noah was given instructions as to what foods to eat and what not to eat. Again, this was similar to the treatment that Adam received. But Noah was given permission to expand upon his diet. But it was clear that the earth Noah knew going into the ark was much different than the earth that he would come to know. Again, God treats Noah similarly as he did Adam. Another example of this is with the animal kingdom. But unfortunately now, the animal kingdom will fear man. This may or may not have to do with a consequence of sin, as it would appear that post-flood world would be more difficult to survive. And it may or may not mean that animals did not fear man before the flood. What we do know for sure is man will reign triumph over all beasts. We also see that God gives man the permission to eat every animal that moves. And while the passage could be interpreted differently, but God does not put a label as clean or unclean. And there seems to be no restrictions placed by God. We will let you be the judge of what God meant here, as this is a simple study. And we only want to inform, not dictate what you believe. While there were no restrictions placed on the animal you ate, if an animal was killed and eaten, there must have been respect for the blood. In ancient society, blood symbolized many things, including mercy for Israel at the first Passover. But it also sealed God's covenant with Israel, so when blood is poured out, life is poured out, but the restriction probably prevents cruelty toward the animal. God requires us to treat animals humanely before and after death. And while he does give man dominion over animals, we are to respect all life forms. And the idea of not eating the blood of animals is just one example of this. Now, we pivot from an animal to man, as we are to respect man's life in the same way we would respect an animal. That is, when human blood is shed, God requires an accountability for it, a reckoning. And while God allowed Cain to live and to thrive upon the earth after he killed his brother Abel, the new earth's requirements are different, as death is now a punishment for taking of innocent life. After all, human life is precious and valuable, and taking it does not make God happy. However, we must note that there is a difference between killing and a murder. If you take someone's life in cold blood, this is murder. But if you take someone's life out of self-defense, this is a killing. If a society holds someone accountable for murder, this is a killing, and not a murder. So there is a big distinction made by the Bible. Again, God emphasizes multiplying because the earth was in great need of repopulation. Unfortunately, Noah is getting older, much older in fact. So here we will see God speaking with Noah and his sons. God understands what will eventually come, so he is speaking to the next generation in his promises and commands. In Genesis chapter 6, God established a covenant with Noah as he instructed Noah and his family to come unto the ark. In Genesis chapter 8, he establishes a covenant by promising to never destroy the earth with a flood again as long as the earth exists. Interestingly enough, God makes this covenant with all people to come, all your descendants after you, but also the animals, every living creature that is with you. We truly see a merciful and loving God on display. The covenant was seen in the form of a rainbow. Sadly, today, the rainbow has been hijacked to represent something it did not mean, or ever expected to represent. But it was likely that this was the first time a rainbow ever appeared, and it was a sign that God would be faithful to his covenant. Personally, I love seeing a rainbow because it reminds me of God's covenant with man, and all of the promises that God has made and kept, and of all things to come. God uses a rainbow here because it is a sign that can be clearly seen, and it's symbolic of a battle weapon used during war is being held in such a way that the battle is over and it's time for peace. God keeps repeating the rainbow and his covenant with man, but repetition or restating something over and over again was done in ancient literature to emphasize a point. Here, God restates the same information, but uses a little different language. The remainder of Genesis chapter 9 is the beginning of a new world, or how they would be repopulated. That is, the sons of Noah would step off into their new destination as Shem, Ham, and Japheth would father new nations as we know them. This is new for the three sons, but also new is Noah's work, farmer. This is not to say that Noah was not a farmer before the flood, we are not told. But Noah makes a vineyard where he creates wine. It is possible that wine was made before the flood, but this is the first mention of it in the Bible. Noah gets drunk and is uncovered. But what we don't know is if Noah participated in some sort of sinful activity while being drunk, or if he was just uncovered as a result of being drunk. Alcohol does make you careless, which is why God not want you to get drunk. At this point in time, we are not given instructions about Noah and how he was to act with alcohol, so what comes afterwards is hard to apply to Noah. But there is a correlation here with Noah and the story of Adam and Eve. Adam and Eve were sinless and naked, but not ashamed of their nakedness because they were pure sinless. But when they disobeyed God, they were then ashamed of their nakedness and clothed themselves, but for Noah, he was drunk and uncovered himself, so he kind of reversed this. And while we are not sure of what happened, or to what extent, we do know that this was not the actions we expected of Noah, although he was not a perfect man. Ham saw this and told his two brothers outside of the tent, and this angered Noah. We are not told why Noah was angered by this. Perhaps something else happened that we are not told about. But if Ham simply seen him naked and Noah was upset, this sounds a bit like foolish pride. So much so that Noah cursed Ham's son. But from the scriptures here, it seems like it goes deeper than just embarrassment and foolish pride. For example, we are told that Noah knew what his young son had done to him, so this seems to suggest that what happened to Noah involved more than just one of his sons or grandsons seeing him naked. It is just speculation, but it would seem strange for Canaan to be cursed, and not Ham if Ham was the responsible party. But on the other hand, perhaps whatever Ham had done against Noah while in this drunken state, Noah felt the greatest form of punishment would be to curse Ham's own seed, Canaan. We don't know any details about this event other than Noah was mad about what had taken place. Maybe Ham was mocking Noah in this state and dismissing his righteous, or maybe it was something a lot more sinister. From records, we can dismiss the idea that Noah's curse on Ham had something to do with his skin color, as others have suggested, because Canaan's people were Near Eastern who would be captured by Joshua. We do have a first here, and it is the first cursing of another person or group of people, and it came from Ham's own dad, Noah. Ironic indeed. But it would come time for Noah to die, and he did so 350 years from the beginning of the flood. This is a long life, but Noah lived 950 years in total. This allowed for Noah to see the birth of his children and great-grandchildren, and so forth, but the promise that God had made to Noah came to fruition.